Hey y'all, happy Thursday. I am back. My name is Tiffany. I am your favorite North Carolina realtor here in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, helping you buy your way to wealth and sell for profits when you're ready. In case you are just tuning in for the very first time, March is Credit Education Month. And so each and every Thursday this month, right here at 3 p.m. Eastern, I am going live with my friend Kevin, Senior Mortgage Loan Officer, to give you some credit tips. When you are getting ready to purchase a home, we know that home ownership is one of the best ways to wealth. Over 90% of the world's millionaires do so. They obtain their wealth through real estate. And so we want to help you get in the game. Whether you are looking to have a first-time home purchase, where you are looking to own some investment property, whatever it may be, I want to help you purchase a home here in the area. Even if you're not in the area, I got friends everywhere. And so wanted to get you the information you need to make sure that your credit report is up to where it needs to be. Your credit profile looks exactly the way you need it to look, so that way you can get your property. And so I have my friend Kevin here with me, so he can get our credit tip for the week. And so Kevin's going to be joining us shortly. And so it looks like here he is now. Hey Kevin, how
Hey,
you doing?
what's going on? Doing good.
I am good. I am good. Thank you. Thank you again so much for joining us this week.
Of course, of course. I can do this all day. I love it.
Absolutely. So let me tell you, before we jump in, I want to give the folks a recap of last week because I took your advice myself and was so proud. But I wanted to tell you how crazy it was because last Saturday I was working on my budget. And so I try to go over my budget at least once a week. I'm working on it. It's more like twice a month, but I'm trying to do better. And so I was making my credit card payments and I realized I had an allotted amount of how much I knew I wanted to pay on my credit cards. But instead of putting it across the credit cards that I have, I was able to focus on one particular card because I knew I needed to get under that 30%. I did that by Wednesday. I had a notification that my credit score increased by Wednesday. It went up 10 points by Wednesday just by making sure that that one credit card that was over 30%, now that it was under, and I was like, yo, this is wild. So super excited, and I wanted to share that. So for those that weren't here last week, Kevin told us about the divide by 3 rule. And we want to make sure that for every credit card we have, our balances are under 30% utilization. And so we can divide it by 3 to see what it needs to be. And so I paid one of my credit cards under that. I saw a 10% increase in my credit score. So I can't wait for today to hear what you are going to share with us. So talk to us. What is our topic for today?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that worked for you. Like, that is amazing that you put that into action. And it's good that the people watching know that it does work, right? Like, we're not just throwing stuff out there. We're putting together and giving you action plans that actually work.
Yes.
So kudos to you for doing that. Today, we're going to talk about trust.
Ooh, okay.
All right. Can I trust you as the lender?
Mm-hmm.
I trust you when you come to me, you're saying, hey, Mr. Bullock, I want to borrow $400,000, $500,000, $275,000, whatever that number is for you, right? It comes down to a matter of trust. And how do we determine whether or not we can trust you? It's your credit report, right? So the credit report, last week we talked about utilization, and utilization accounts for 30% of your credit score. Well, the next 2 pieces that account for your credit score is your credit history and your payment history. Okay.
Okay.
Your payment history is the largest component that determines your score. 35%.
Oh, so more than credit utilization then.
More than utilization.
Okay.
Your payment, your credit history, your overall credit history is 15%.
Wow.
So
Wow.
history alone, between the credit history and the payment history, we're at 50% of your score is determined by some type of history, whether it's payment or credit.
Okay. Okay.
So that's a large portion. So you want to make sure that your history, your payment and the credit history are in the top tier. It's in good
Mm-hmm.
standing, right? Let's talk about the credit history first.
Okay.
Credit history, again, it accounts for 15% of the score. So not a large chunk, but a decent
Right.
amount. The credit history, look at it this way. It's everything that shows up on your credit report from the time that you've established credit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's any credit card debt, any loans, what are your balances over time? What has that been? Any bankruptcies, judgments, collections, foreclosures, shorts, anything that shows up on a credit report
Mm-hmm.
and the history that you've established credit, that's your credit history.
Okay. Okay, so let me ask you about this because this is always one that gets on my nerves because I feel like I get dinged for my credit history just because I'm not old enough. And so I haven't had credit for very long. So talk to me about like what's a good age for credit, and then also especially a couple of the ones that you mentioned, like the bankruptcy and foreclosure. How long does that stuff even stay on your credit?
So the first question you ask is, you feel like you're being penalized because your credit history is not as long or not as aged, right?
Yes,
Um, I would say, but remember, it's only 15%.
that's true. Okay,
So
okay,
so it's not something that's really heavily weighted. So keep that in mind, and don't beat yourself up for it because you don't have that longevity in the
okay,
history.
okay,
But
okay.
what I would say is, the sooner you can start, the better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But start responsibly.
Right.
So one of the ways, what I did with my sister, I learned this, being in the business almost 20 years. I learned this while I was already in the mortgage industry. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have a sister, and I told my parents, I said, listen, when she graduates high school, she's not going to have any debt, any credit, any debt.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want her going to college, and then they start targeting her with credit cards, and you
The
can
free
get,
pizza.
and that's how they got me. They were sitting right outside the student
Yep.
center, which I
Yep.
believe they put some restrictions on that now. But
Right.
when I was in college, they were sitting right outside the student center, and I fell for the trap. But what I told my parents was, put my sister on one of your accounts that's in good standing,
Mm-hmm.
authorized user.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to give her the card, so you
Right.
don't worry about her using it. But
Right.
when she's an authorized user, she now gets the payment
Mm-hmm.
history and it's the credit history, because you've had that Capital One card for 10 years, 15 years. And so now
Wow.
she gets that history added on,
Okay.
authorized user, plus every time you make your payments, she gets that credit as well.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me if as me, when I have kids, I can add my child to my credit card as an authorized user, not give them a card so they can't go swipe or no swiping, but
Right, right.
they can establish credit based off of what I am doing
That,
currently?
that is correct.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So parents, listen, but you got to be responsible. You got to
Right.
make sure that you're making the
That is
payments.
that is critical.
Okay.
Critical, because what you don't want to do is jack your child up because you missed a payment with your Target card,
Right.
and now they start off with bad debt that they don't even know they have, right? So
Okay.
you want to do this with somebody that's responsible, and it doesn't just work with family members. You can be an authorized user on anybody's account, and
Okay.
you will get the credit. So I tell my clients, if you know somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's responsible with their credit and they have an aged account, and you know they're in good standing, request to be an authorized
Mm-hmm.
user. And again, you don't need the card.
Right.
They're just going to call
Mm-hmm.
Barclays, Capital One, Amex, whoever,
Right.
Target. say I would like to add Kevin Bullock on as an authorized user.
Mm-hmm.
I now get the credit. I get the benefit without actually having to establish credit. Now, you're going to need both. If you come to me to apply for a loan and you only have authorized credit, I know as a lender, that's not really your credit. So because it tells you right on the credit report, it's going to have a symbol that lets me know that this is an authorized user account.
Okay.
But what it does is it helps to just establish the good credit, and you can help, reestablish your credit. If you messed up a little bit, you can reestablish your credit by using that authorized user. So I would say do that.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this before you get to the next one. You said aged account. What's a good age where that's worthwhile to do?
I don't know the specific number for that, but I would anything, over 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be 15, 20 years.
Okay.
But you have an account and you've had it more than a year, more than 2 years, I think that's a good number, especially if you've been making your payments on time during that 2-year period.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. That's easy enough. Okay. So now what about the foreclosures, bankrupt? You mentioned that before. And so in case we have people that are watching who may have that experience in the past, how long does that stay on your credit report?
So typically, I believe it stays on your credit report anywhere between 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
All right. So, and then that's going to go into the payment history portion. So what I tell people, when you have items like collection accounts, that I think that's more prevalent, because you're only going to have a foreclosure or short sale if you owned a property before and it went into default. Right. That's going to show up. But a lot of times we have collection accounts. So those are just unpaid accounts that end up going into collections. And then what I hear people say is, oh, it's only on my credit report for 7 years, so I won't pay it. No, that's not how it works.
Right. Right.
It's going to stay on there longer than 7 years. It's going to still be there, but the scoring on the tracking of it is there for the 7 years, if that makes sense.
It does.
So it doesn't just go away. You can't just say, oh, I'll wait it out.
Yeah, and I have heard that before. I have heard people say, I will wait it out, I'll wait my 7 years, and then we're good to go. It's almost like a clean slate.
No, it's not. If you took out that debt, you need to pay that debt. Okay. Right? But you need to talk to the professionals before you pay the debt. And what I mean is, let's say you have an account and it went into collections, and that account is now 3 years old. If you go and you say, you know what, 2023, I'm calling Tiffany, I'm going to buy this house, right? Before I call Tiffany, though, I'm going to pay that collection off. And so you pay off all your collections and you spend $5,000 paying off all your collections. When you pay the collection, at this point, it's not really being credited towards your score because there's no activity. So what happens is when you pay it, the algorithm doesn't know that you're doing a good thing. It just goes and says, oh, wait, this is an active account now, and it goes back to the last reported activity.
And since you haven't actually had any activity, it doesn't matter anyway.
Doesn't matter. So it's going to go back to the last. So the last reported activity was default. 2 years ago, you were defaulting on this account. The algorithm is going to go back to that, and that's why your scores drop. So you want to talk to the professionals, because what you want to do, if you absolutely have to pay the collection, you want to call the creditor and do what's called a pay. A pay for delete.
A pay for delete. Right. Okay.
Pay for deletion. So what you're going to do is you're going to negotiate with them, and you're going to say, listen, I have this account. I noticed that, I'm in default. It's in collection. I would like to maybe settle or pay the full amount, but I'll do that, and you delete it off my credit report. And more than likely, they're going to work with you because they haven't been getting money. They get paid now, right? And so the settlement of paying the account and then having it deleted is a win-win. They get their money and you get it deleted without getting that ding to your credit report. Now, I just want to let you know and let the people know that's watching, they are not required to delete it off your account.
Really?
So, yeah, they are not required because that's a debt that you have and that you owe. So, really negotiating. So, you know, I wouldn't tell them, hey, I need this deleted so I can buy a house, you know, because you kind of lose your leverage. I will let them know, listen, I want to pay this, but, I'm trying to establish my credit or reestablish my credit. Can we do a pay for delete? And many times they will.
And so how do we confirm that they actually are going to do that?
Typically, you would try to get something in writing.
Okay.
Right? So you would say, listen, can I send you an email? Can I get an email confirming that confirming rather, that I'm going to make this payment, and then you're going to delete the account. But then there's a little trust factor there as well. But most of the time they will do that for you.
Okay. So that's good to know. So that it can't come off your record, but there's just a little extra work. And so of course they're going to make us work for it if we want it to benefit us, but we can call the creditor and ask them to pay for deletion and get some sort of confirmation in order for them to do so. And then we pay that bill. And that's what's going to help increase our credit score.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. So that's the whole collection and things staying on your credit report for a certain length of time. We want to pay our debts, right? Debts. The second part of this, which is the largest part, is the payment history. So now we started this off with the question, can I trust you? We're going to talk about trust. Can I trust you, right? Your payment history lets me know your ability to be trusted. Trustworthiness. What is that? Because I'm looking at the payment history. I get the credit report, and I say, okay, Tiffany, I'm looking at the credit report, right? Now, obviously, it's not a tangible credit report, but I'm looking at the credit report, and I'm saying, okay, Tiffany, okay, you pay XYZ on time. You've been making your payments on time for X amount of time. You are trustworthy. I can trust that you're going to pay me on time because you've paid your car note, your student loans, your credit cards, your personal loans, whatever it is, you've been paying that on time. It makes me feel better knowing that I'm going to now lend you a much larger sum of money and you're going to pay that on time. If I look at your credit report and I see the $3,000 Barclays account you haven't paid that on time. The car note you haven't paid that on time. That account, you haven't paid that on time. The Target card, you haven't paid that on time. Look at that. And I see you haven't paid any of these accounts on time. And the largest limit on these accounts, $5,000, $10,000. It doesn't make me feel good as the lender to lend you $200,000, $400,000, $500,000. That's why we're saying, can I trust you? Can I look at your credit history, your payment history, and whether or not you can be trusted to pay this loan back? Now, I will say things happen, right? If you get into a jam and you have some missed payments, that's not an end all. It's not a deal breaker because you missed some payments. Okay. So we're going to ask, okay, what's the story? What happened? I noticed that you were late. You fell behind on your car note in October of 2022. What happened there? Oh, Mr. Bullock, I had got laid off, but then I found another job. It took me a little while to get, so, okay, I see what happened there. It doesn't mean that you can't get the home. We want to know what the story is.
Right.
If you, oh, Mr. Bullock, that was my birthday weekend and I went and me and the boys went out or me and the girls went out and I did the payment. That's not the explanation you want to give, right? So what's the story behind it? But that payment history is such a critical part. So I tell people all the time, between what we talked about last week with the utilization and the payment history, we're talking about 65% of your credit score is just you making your payment on time and keeping your balances low.
Mm-hmm.
That's very attainable.
Yes,
To
for sure.
me, that's you being intentional about your credit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's within your power. So it's not that the credit bureau's got something against you, and this whole credit thing is rigged. Not really, right? These are two large components that's within your control, within my control.
Right.
Make your payments on time, keep your balances low.
Yeah. It's all about the responsibility piece, because it even reminds me of what we talked about last week, when if we knew if there was a balance or something that we needed to call them and let them know if we could work out some type of payment arrangement or something like that. So same thing with this. It's us not avoiding what we got going on. And so if there was a situation, even when we're establishing a relationship with the lender, being willing to address the situation head on, because of course it may not feel well to know, oh, in the past I've had a late payment, or I didn't do this what I was supposed to. But being able to have those conversations and being upfront, so that way it doesn't mean just because we've had that experience we can't qualify for a loan.
Right, right. And the credit report and the credit scores are such an intricate part of our everyday lives now, right? They're checking credit whether you're purchasing or renting.
Mm-hmm.
They're credit when you're renting cars, right? If you want
Yes.
in a hotel, Airbnb, like sometimes depending on the type of job, they're looking at credit,
Right.
right? You,
Mm-hmm.
you get your utilities. It's the difference between maybe having to put down a security deposit or not, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
credit is important, but specifically as it pertains to home ownership, you want to be intentional, right? And you want to be responsible and take care of the credit. And it's not this scary thing. I want to make sure that we, demystify that credit is not scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great tool if you use it responsibly.
Right. Right. And that is definitely, it's not, we're making it a much more normalized conversation, because a lot of people, it's scary because we don't understand it. But you're telling me that 65% of my credit profile is in my control, as long as I just am responsible. I know what needs to be paid by when, and I pay it on time. That's a lot more that's in my control than what I may have originally thought. And just understanding what my limits are. So now that I have these kind of rules to go by, it lets me know how much freedom I have and where what I can play in.
Correct. I mean, so when you add the history, just 15%, the payment history, which is 35%,
Mm-hmm.
and the utilization, which is 30%, we're at 80%.
Yeah. So 80% is in my control then.
80% is in your control.
Wow.
80% of your credit score is in your control. It's in my control. We control our credit scores.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to make our payments, keep our payments being made on time, and reduce those balances. And listen, if you can't, again, I want to make sure people offer yourself some grace. If you got in, you got in trouble, and you're like, man, I wish I had this live 3 years ago,
Right.
10 years ago. It's fine, right? But now you know. So now there's no
Right.
excuse.
Right.
There's no excuse. So you're not going to open up a new card at this point if you're trying to reestablish. What you're going to do now is lower the balances that you have,
Mm-hmm.
focus, lower those account balances, and make those payments on time. If you can't make the payment on time, call the credit.
Yeah.
Work out an arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be late this month. Is there any way I can get an extension? Can I make half a payment and then do a payment arrangement? Whatever you have to do, because the end goal is the home.
Right.
Right? We want the house. That's the end goal. Is we want those keys. We want those keys. So it's 80%. 80% is in your control. It's doable. It's attainable. You gotta want it.
Yeah. I love that. And it's so important, because it also shows that it doesn't have to be this long drawn out process. Even like what I shared today, my score went up 10 points just by shifting the money that I was already going to spend on my credit cards, but prioritizing, I paid a little bit less because I was paying over my minimum anyway. And so I paid a little bit less on one and shifted that to the other one. So we can see immediate impacts. And it helps us to prepare for this big purchase because we are asking people to trust us with literally hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't know them. And so this is super helpful, Kevin. I really, really appreciate just the way that you're able to break it down into baby steps for us so we can get ready for these keys because it's home ownership. We are claiming home ownership all 2023.
All 2023. We're going to get it. Absolutely.
I love it. Well, any last thoughts that you want to share with the folks on this Credit Tip Thursday?
Well, last thoughts, I would say make your payments on time. Pay your bills on time. And a lot of creditors, you have 30 days, right? So even if you go beyond the grace period and you have to pay the late fee, just don't go past that 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm an advocate for paying it when it's due. So if it's due the 15th, pay the 15th if you can. But if something comes up and you can't, just don't let it get to the 15th of the next month.
Right.
So pay in that window. But that's really it. No, this is not rocket science. And like you said, sometimes we have a fear of it because we just don't know. And we need to have these conversations. We got to have this dialogue and let people know, listen, it's not that hard. So listen, if you are watching, whether you're watching now or if you're going to watch later, you're going to watch us re-airing this and playing it,
mm-hmm.
and you have questions, call Tiffany, call myself, right? And say, listen, I want to do a credit check. We go to the doctor and we do wellness checks. Yep. We take our cars to the mechanic and we get auto checks. But we need to do a credit check.
Yes.
And we can do a credit check, and it's not going to cost you anything. I don't charge to look at your credit, review it. We can actually do a soft pull, mm-hmm. which wouldn't actually put a ding on your credit. And I want to say this too, because a lot of times people are scared to pull their credit because they're like, oh, my score is going to drop. One, let's be real. If you haven't, this is what I've learned, right? People with really good credit, they know they have really good credit because they've been intentional.
Right.
If you say, I'm not sure what my score is, I don't know, that probably is an indication that you haven't really been watching your credit. Mm-hmm. So the thing to your credit of 0 to 5 points is not going to make or break the deal. Right. So get the credit check.
Yeah.
Do the wellness check for your finances.
Yes.
Right. Find out where you are, because you may be thinking my credit is all jacked up, and it might just be high balance.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It might just be paying this down, or you might be saying, I have student loan debt. There's no way I can buy because I have too much debt. Well, the student loan debt, it might be hard to pay off $100,000, but we can maybe pay down your other cards. Mm-hmm. The student loan is the only debt you have. Mm-hmm. Qualify, right? So before you do anything, don't just watch this and say, I'm going to go off and pay it and pay. Talk to Tiffany. Talk to myself. Let us guide you. That's what we're here for. We are here to literally guide you and do the right thing so that you can get your keys in 2023.
Absolutely. Yeah, good credit doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice.
Absolutely.
And so it is so critical for us. And that's a great point. We do have all of these other checkups that we do and we monitor. And so our financial well-being is just as important, because money is not the most important thing, but a lot of the important things are impacted by money. And so it's so important that we are intentional with our finances and we are taking the time, whether it's even if it's just once or twice a year, to just see where we are, how we're doing, and creating a plan of this is the goal, what do I need to do in order to get there, and then work the plan.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, as always, dropping jewels. So last week we have the divide by 3 rule. This week we know 80% of our credit report is in our control. Yeah. 80% of our credit profile we can't impact. And so we pay our bills on time. We talk to professionals to create a plan to help us get the credit score that we want to achieve. And then we work the plan.
Work the plan.
I love it. All right, so next week we will be back, same time, same place, next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, have an amazing Thursday.
All right, take
Bye,
care.
y'all.